Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Todd Chrisley fired from chapel job for speaking out. Chrisley knows best. Fans heard that Todd Chrisley worked in Pensacola FPC, but he lost his job. Apart from teaching some courses, he worked as an assistant in the chapel. Now his daughter, Savannah Chrisley, hinted that he might have been fired for speaking out about the treatment of other inmates. Todd Chrisley fired from the chapel. The news that the USA Network alum was booted from his job as an assistant arrived via attorney Jay Sargent. According to Jay, the Chrisley Knows Best alum had talked to some people attending the prison's residential drug abuse program. As it is close to the chapel, the prison administration objected to him doing that. Ever since her dad entered the prison, Savannah Chrisley has complained about the management at the prison. According to her, Todd Chrisley was already unfairly prohibited from attending services. However, that seems to have been lifted according to what his attorney said after his firing. Chrisley Knows Best alum fired as retaliation. On a recent flight, Savannah Chrisley did a Q&A for her USA Network fans. One of them asked the Chrisley Knows Best alum if she could talk on her podcast about why they stopped her dad from working in the chapel. In her reply, she seemed to hint that his firing was related to him speaking out about the treatment of the program attendees. Next, Savannah talked about how people should be concerned about that sort of thing that goes against those who speak up against misconduct. Does that sound as if Todd Chrisley spoke out and gave some evidence? USA Network fans react. On Reddit, o/best_scallion_9983 shared a screenshot of the Q&A and simply added some laughing emojis as well as saying, "Oh sassy." In the comments section, Chrisley Knows Best fans slammed Savannah Chrisley for making things worse for both Julie and Todd Chrisley. Here are some of their reactions. Savannah's mouth and her actions are doing her parents so much more harm than good. She may want to strongly consider signing up for the Shut the F Cup Friday program. Does she not realize/care that at least 75% of her parents' issues inside prison is from her running her mouth? God, she's so delusional. Todd could never do anything wrong. He didn't say to yell millions of dollars, and he sure didn't run his damn mouth while in prison, no never. Todd's perfect, it's everyone else that's the problem. In a quiet southern town, nestled under sprawling magnolia trees and painted in hues of tradition and charm, the local chapel was in a stir. Todd Chrisley, a household name with his southern charm and razor-sharp wit, had recently taken up a position in the community's beloved chapel. Hired initially to bring his spirit, storytelling, and charisma to the church, he'd become a surprising staple of Sunday services. But as fate would have it, his tenure in this holy position was cut short. Not by the hand of the Lord, but by the human elements of pride, rumor, and controversy. The whispers had started innocuously, as most things in town did. At first, it was an odd look here, a murmur there. It all started when Todd, known for his unfiltered opinions on Chrisley Knows Best, carried a bit of that same boldness to his new chapel role. He wasn't just reciting scripture, he was dissecting it, challenging the congregation to rethink age-old parables. He'd ask them to dig into their hearts and truly examine the lives they led. While most of the congregation appreciated the fresh approach, some felt that Todd's method of questioning convention wasn't suited for their quiet sanctuary. One Sunday, during a heartfelt sermon on honesty, Todd had taken to sharing some personal truths about his own life. He spoke openly about family trials, his own legal troubles, and the lessons he'd learned in humility and grace. The service that day was moving. He brought tears to many eyes, and several even stood up to applaud him afterward. But the chapel's board members weren't as impressed. They had concerns about Todd's transparency, feeling it was a little too revealing, a little too raw for their traditional values. One of the board members, an elderly woman named Miss Eleanor, had reportedly been particularly put off by Todd's approach. "It's unbecoming of a chapel leader," she would mutter to the others, adjusting her pearl necklace with a look of dismay. Miss Eleanor was the sort who believed that a church should be a place of quiet reverence, not soul-bearing vulnerability. She started voicing her concerns about Todd's influence, fearing that he was leading the congregation away from the church's teachings. Meanwhile, Todd remained blissfully unaware of the controversy brewing in the shadows of the chapel's stained glass windows. He loved his work there, feeling that he had found a calling that let him give back to his community in a way he hadn't expected. His family, too, could see the difference in him. Julie noticed he seemed lighter, more at peace. Savannah, his daughter, would often drop by just to see him in action, watching as he brought his unique blend of humor and wisdom to the congregation. But the storm was on the horizon, and it hit the following Sunday when Todd tackled a particularly heated issue. The town had recently passed a local ordinance on affordable housing, sparking discussions of class, charity, and what it meant to be a good neighbor. Todd, never one to shy away from hard conversations, used his sermon as a chance to challenge the congregation. How can we call ourselves Christians if we turn our backs on those in need? He questioned, his voice reverberating through the chapel. Are we more concerned with appearances than with living the words we preach? Some congregants nodded along, moved by his words, but others felt uncomfortable. Todd's challenge was piercing through the carefully constructed facades of the town's upper crust, exposing a truth that wasn't entirely welcome. And then he went one step further. We're only as good as the actions we take, he continued, looking directly at Miss Eleanor, whose face turned a shade paler as he spoke. It's not about what we wear to church or how much we donate on Sunday. It's about how we love and support each other every day. The service ended with a hushed silence. The congregation filed out, some in quiet contemplation, others with visible discomfort. Miss Eleanor, who had been silently fuming, wasted no time calling an emergency meeting with the board. Todd's words had struck too close to home for her liking, and she was convinced that he was stirring unnecessary discord within their peaceful community. By Monday morning, the chapel board had drafted a letter to Todd, citing a need for alignment in values and vision. They informed him that his services would no longer be required. For all the veiled politeness in the letter, Todd saw through it. He knew that he had touched a nerve, and maybe, just maybe, that nerve was exactly what the congregation had needed. Todd sat down with his family that evening, letter in hand. Well, he said, trying to keep the mood light, I guess I've been politely shown the door. Savannah looked heartbroken. Dad, you did so much good there. People need to hear what you have to say, even if it makes them uncomfortable. Julie, ever the calming presence, put her hand on Todd's. You did what was right, and sometimes the truth doesn't make you popular, but it doesn't mean it wasn't needed. In the days that followed, news of Todd's firing spread like wildfire. Some members of the congregation were appalled. They felt that he had been unjustly dismissed, and several even approached the board, requesting his reinstatement. Others, however, were relieved, preferring a return to more traditional sermons that didn't force them to question their own lives quite so deeply. For Todd, the experience became a testament to the power of speaking one's truth. He realized that his time in the chapel, though brief, had opened a new path for him, a calling to use his voice and platform to make a difference, even if that meant stepping outside the chapel's walls. Reflecting on his journey, Todd posted a message on social media that week, sharing his gratitude for the time he'd spent in the role. Sometimes life takes you on unexpected journeys, he wrote, and if there's one thing I've learned, it's that truth and faith aren't confined to any one place. They're inside us, always guiding us. I might be stepping away from the chapel, but I'll never stop speaking my truth, and I hope you all won't either. His words resonated, drawing hundreds of comments from fans and supporters alike. Many saw his message as a call to action, a reminder that the path to faith and integrity isn't always easy, but is always worth it. As for the chapel, it returned to its usual calm, but something had shifted. Todd's bold words had left an indelible mark on the community, and those who had once found comfort in silence now found themselves pondering his questions. The congregation had been cracked open, even if just a little, and some of Todd's ideas continued to echo in the halls long after he had gone.